Right, so I'm going to go for a nice little trot around Selston, and today I'm going to talk about what I thought was the most challenging part of the visa process to Australia, and that was the English test. So the PTE Academic English test. The test is split into 4 different categories. So you've got speaking, listening, reading and writing. Now, obviously I speak English. I'm born and bred in England. The speaking part wasn't a problem for me. The writing part was extremely challenging for me, and I struggled pretty much from the get-go. So I started by downloading the PTE apps and sitting mock tests, and I could see quite quickly that my writing just wasn't up to scratch. So my scores were fails. There's 3 different scores that you can get. So you're marked on all 4 categories. There's superior, which would have been 20 points for our visa. And then there is just a pass, which would have been 10 points for our visa. So basically I needed to achieve a score of 68 out of 90 in writing to get just 10 points. And I struggled really bad. My writing was, I'll speak in a different tense, appalling. I always struggled at school, and working on building sites, I've never really needed to use spelling. But I didn't know where to put commas. I'd just throw commas in to a sentence anywhere. I didn't know how to use punctuation, and yeah, as I say, you couldn't have been going from a much lower bar than I was. In the writing section, there is an essay, a 250 to 300 words, I believe, maybe 200 to 300 word essay that you have to write. So they'll give you a topic, which is often something very boring, like avocados or something stupid like that. And you have to write maybe 4 paragraphs, each paragraph an introduction paragraph, an argument for whatever it is, an argument against, without spelling mistakes, without punctuation mistakes, and this was just impossible for me. The other section of the writing test was summarised written text. So you'll just get a big block of text and you will have to read through it and summarise that text in 1 sentence. And I found this excruciatingly challenging. So I booked in for the first exam, and I studied and I did revise really hard. And in the first exam, something that I wasn't prepared for, and if anyone's listening to this that's not sat the test yet, I'm going to help you out with a bit of advice with this, but it was the noise. So whenever I studied at home, I studied in silence, in my daughter's room on the laptop. Well, when you're in that test centre, it is very, very far from silent. There must have been 28 other people sitting their test, and it begins with the speaking part, and all of you are talking at the same time, and the volume levels elevate, and I found this extremely challenging. I'm one of those people that even if I'm watching a film and a mouse walks through the garden, that's it, my attention's off the film. I just cannot concentrate on one thing for too long. I'm not diagnosed with anything, but I just do not have very good concentration levels. So I was constantly looking around at all these other people making all this noise, and it really knocked my confidence from the get-go. A little bit like maybe when you take your driving test and you think that you failed it. It was a little bit like that. I just thought, I've lost this. I just cannot concentrate in here. It's too loud. And I was sort of downhearted, pretty down on myself. So yeah, I sat the test, and within 24 hours, I got my results. Amazingly, I achieved a 19 speaking. I believe I got a 19 reading, a 70 something in listening, but a 66 in writing. So that is a fail. I was absolutely gutted. That was not enough in writing for me to get 10 points. So I had to rebook in and sit the test again. And I really didn't take it too well. I felt that maybe this just was never going to happen for me. I called myself stupid, called myself thick. Then I got my head together, sulked for 24 hours, and then I began revising like an absolute man-possessed. And when I say a man-possessed, I mean a man-possessed. So I would wake up in the morning, I would revise before work. I stopped doom scrolling. I stopped scrolling on Instagram, Facebook, just came off social media, and all I did, again, this is a tip for anybody that's going through this right now. is I stopped doing mock tests because it was knocking my confidence with all the fails that I kept getting, and I started writing paragraphs and sending them into ChatGPT, constantly sending different block text into ChatGPT and saying, where am I going wrong? What am I spelling wrong? What is wrong with my punctuation? And rather than just telling me I'd failed, which the mock tests did, ChatGPT told me my bad habits. ChatGPT gave me different methods and different templates and different ideas. And through ChatGPT, my writing started to improve. I started putting commas in the right places. And then ChatGPT started giving me high scores. So I booked in for my second test, feeling a lot more confident, not really thinking that I could get superior, but knowing that my writing had reached a standard that would be enough to get the 10 points that we needed for the visa. So 6 weeks on from failing the first test, I sat down and took the second test. The noise in the test centre I was ready for, because quite a few times I sat mock exams in the living room with my family, 3 other people, and said, look, be as loud as you want to be. So I was ready for that. This time, as test prep, rather than hitting the caffeine, which I did the first time round, which was really stupid, made me sweat and anxious, I went on a run, did a bit of a workout, and I went in quite calm and ready. But again, a bit like the first time, I came out of the test centre and for some reason I was absolutely convinced that I'd done terrible. I actually thought that I'd done worse than the first time. I was certain that I'd failed the writing. I actually thought that I'd failed the speaking. I just didn't have any confidence, and on top of all that, the test finished before I completed the last question, which just left it in such a sour note. And I sat in the market square in Nottingham and I felt so down. I rang my wife, and I'll be completely transparent. I said, I don't think this Australia thing's for us. I've failed. I know that I failed. This isn't going to work. This just is not going to happen. I'm not smart enough. I can't do it. I've done all that revision. I couldn't have done any more. And I've gone in there and I've completely let myself down. I've let you guys down, let the kids down. I've let everybody down. And again, I was sulking and I was not showing much resilience. And then working on a roof at Twycross Zoo at 1 o'clock. I will never forget this feeling as long as I live, and I really mean this because I gave it absolutely everything. I received an email from the PTE to tell me that not only had I passed, but I actually had passed with, I'm actually getting butterflies talking about this. I know it might not sound like too big of a deal, but I actually passed with superior. So I got a 90 in writing, which is the highest score you can get. I got a 90 in speaking, 90 in listening, and a 78 in reading, which was enough for a superior score, which got us 20 points for the visa. And I will just tell you, hand on heart, that the feeling of completing that, the feeling of getting superior, was probably on par with passing my driving test when I was 21, all those years ago. I just felt like such a release of like pressure. And yes, this was by no means us at the end of the journey where we are now, but it was a massive part of it done. And to get us to 80 points on our visa we needed 65 to apply for the 189 that we've gone for and the 190, but this got us to 80 points, which was just absolutely fantastic and a great feeling. So the takeaway, if you're still with me watching this video, would be use ChatGPT. Yes, the Alpha PTE apps and all the different PTE apps that are on there are great for mock tests, but sometimes mock tests aren't what you need. They knock your confidence. You're definitely marked harder in mock tests than you are in the actual exam. I never got straight 90s in any mock test, so don't be down on yourself and don't let it get on top, but use ChatGPT, because rather than just tell you that you failed, ChatGPT will actually give you the reasons that you failed, and you can go more in depth with it. So good luck, you've got this. Trust me, if I could get 90 on writing from my standard of writing, which was probably that of a 5-year-old, then you guys can smash this test out. So all the best, and thanks for watching. Please follow, please like. I'll see you again soon.